Louisville, Kentucky. 1960, a warm summer evening that would change everything. 18-year-old Cassius Clay had just returned from Rome. Around his neck hung an Olympic gold medal, the symbol of American excellence, proof that he was one of the greatest amateur boxers on the planet. He was hungry. He was proud. He was an Olympic champion representing the United States of America. He walked into a restaurant downtown, still wearing his Olympic jacket with the USA patch visible. He wanted a simple meal, a burger, some fries, a Coke, nothing more. But when he approached the counter, 7 white men turned to look at him. Their eyes held something he knew too well, something he'd seen his entire life. One of them spoke. "We don't serve niggers here. You don't belong here." Cassius looked down at his gold medal, then back at the men, then at the American flag on the wall behind them, and in that moment, with 3 simple words, he responded with something that would echo through history. But before we get to those 3 words, you need to understand the journey that brought him to that restaurant. Because what happened next wasn't just about one moment. It was about a lifetime of preparation for that moment. Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. was born on January 17, 1942, in Louisville, Kentucky, a city carved in half by the color line. On one side, white neighborhoods with clean streets, good schools, opportunities. On the other side, black neighborhoods where young Cassius grew up, where signs read whites only and colored as casually as they read open and closed. His father, Cassius Clay Sr., was a sign painter, a talented artist who painted beautiful murals and signs for white businesses that wouldn't let him eat at their counters. His mother, Odessa, worked as a domestic servant in white homes, cleaning rooms she could never afford to live in. Young Cassius learned early what it meant to be talented and limited at the same time. At age 5, he asked his mother why they couldn't drink from the nice water fountain downtown. She told him, "That's for white folks, baby." "But why, Mama? Is their water better?" "No, baby. Their water ain't no better than ours. That's just the way things are." But even at 5 years old, something in Cassius rejected those words. He didn't want to accept the way things are. He wanted to change the way things are. At age 12, the famous story unfolded. His red Schwinn bicycle, his prized possession, was stolen while he was at the Columbia Auditorium during a local bazaar. Furious and in tears, young Cassius found police officer Joe Martin in the basement of the building, where Martin ran a boxing gym. "I'm gonna whoop whoever stole my bike," Cassius declared. Joe Martin, a white officer who believed in teaching rather than just policing, said, "Well, you better learn how to fight before you start challenging people." That conversation changed the trajectory of history. But here's what most people don't know. Joe Martin wasn't just teaching Cassius to fight. He was teaching him something more important, that a black boy in Louisville could be excellent at something, that he could compete, that he could win. In a world designed to make him feel small, boxing became the arena where Cassius could be great. As Cassius trained, he experienced what would later call the Louisville paradox, the strange reality of being celebrated and segregated at the same time. He won local tournaments. His name appeared in newspapers. White Louisville was proud of their young boxing prodigy. But he still couldn't eat at their restaurants. He still had to use separate bathrooms. He still had to sit in the back of the bus. Excellence didn't erase the color line. It just made the line more visible. At 15, Cassius won his first Golden Gloves tournament. The local newspaper ran his photo with the headline, "Louisville's Boxing Pride." But when he tried to celebrate at a downtown diner, he was turned away. "We don't serve clarets," the waitress said, not even looking at him. He went home that night and told his father what happened. Cassius Sr., a man who had swallowed a lifetime of rage, said something that burned into his son's mind. "Boy, you can be the best in the world, and they'll still treat you like you're nothing. That's America." But young Cassius had a different thought. "Maybe if I'm not just good, but great, undeniably, impossibly great, then they'll have to see me. They'll have to respect me." That thought became his fuel. By 1960, 18-year-old Cassius Clay had won 100 amateur fights and lost only 5. He was fast, skilled, charismatic. He had developed a style unlike any other boxer, dancing, moving, jabbing with lightning speed. He qualified for the U.S. Olympic boxing team heading to Rome. This was his chance, not just to win, but to represent his country, to prove that a black kid from Louisville could stand on top of the world. But there was a problem. Cassius was terrified of flying. He had never been on an airplane. The thought of being 30,000 feet in the air, trapped in a metal tube, paralyzed him with fear. He almost didn't go to Rome. His trainer convinced him by saying, "Cassius, this is your moment. You scared of flying? I'm more scared of what happens if you don't fly. If you don't go to Rome, you'll regret it your whole life." So Cassius got on that plane, gripping his seat, sweating through his shirt. Convinced he was going to die, he didn't die. He landed in Rome, and what happened next was magic. In Rome, Cassius discovered something revolutionary. He was treated like a human being. He could eat at any restaurant. He could walk any street. Italian fans asked for his autograph. Children wanted to take photos with him. Nobody called him boy. Nobody told him where he couldn't go. For the first time in his life, Cassius Clay experienced freedom. He fought his way through the Olympic tournament with style and dominance. In the final, he faced Zbigniew Pietrzakowski of Poland, a three-time European champion, a veteran fighter who had faced the best in the world. The fight was close. Pietrzakowski was technical, experienced, dangerous, but Cassius had something the Polish fighter didn't. Hunger, not for food, but for validation, for proof, for a moment that would announce to the world, I exist, I matter, I am great. In the final round, Cassius unleashed a combination that stunned people. The judges scored it unanimously for Clay. He won the gold medal. Standing on the podium, the American flag rising behind him, the national anthem playing, Cassius Clay cried. Not tears of joy, tears of complicated emotion. Pride mixed with pain. Triumph mixed with the knowledge of what waited for him back home. He wore that gold medal for 48 hours straight. He slept in it. He ate in it. He walked through Rome with it gleaming on his chest. For those 48 hours, he was an American hero. Untouchable, undeniable, but America was waiting. When Cassius returned to Louisville, there was a small celebration. Local newspapers ran stories. The mayor gave a speech. White Louisville was proud of their Olympic champion, but the celebration had limits. A local reporter asked Cassius, "How does it feel to win gold for your country?" Cassius, still young and hopeful, said, "It feels like I proved something. I proved that a Negro can represent America just as good as anybody." The reporter smiled uncomfortably and changed the subject. That evening, still wearing his Olympic jacket, still feeling the weight of the gold medal, Cassius decided to celebrate. He wanted a simple meal. He was an Olympic champion. He had earned the right to eat wherever he wanted. He walked into a downtown Louisville restaurant, one he had walked past 1,000 times but never entered. The restaurant was busy. Families eating dinner. The smell of grilled burgers and fresh fries filled the air. Cassius's stomach growled. He approached the counter, confident, proud. That's when the 7 white men noticed him. They were sitting at a long table near the back. Working men, probably came straight from a factory or construction site. They saw the young black man in the Olympic jacket, and their expressions changed. One of them, a large man with thick arms and a red face, stood up. He walked toward Cassius slowly, deliberately. The other 6 watched, ready to back him up. The man stopped a few feet away and looked Cassius up and down. "We don't serve niggers here," he said loudly, making sure everyone in the restaurant heard. "You don't belong here. Why don't you go back to your side of town?" The restaurant went silent. All eyes turned to Cassius. He was 18 years old. He had just represented the United States of America at the Olympics. He had won a gold medal. He had made his country proud. And now, in that country, 7 men were telling him he didn't belong. Cassius looked at the man, then at the other 6. He felt the weight of the gold medal around his neck. He felt the eyes of everyone in the restaurant watching him. He had 2 choices: leave quietly, swallow the humiliation, accept the way things are, like his mother had taught him, go back to the colored section of town where he was safe, where he belonged, or speak. Cassius Clay took a breath. He looked directly at the large man, and he spoke 3 words that changed his life. "I am somebody." The man blinked, confused. "What?" Cassius said it louder. "I am somebody." The silence deepened. The 3 words hung in the air like a challenge, like a declaration, like a prayer. The man tried to respond. "I don't care who you," but Cassius interrupted him. He pointed to his gold medal. "You see this? I won this for America. For you? For this country? I fought for this country in Rome, and you're telling me I don't belong here?" His voice wasn't angry. It wasn't aggressive. It was something more powerful. It was certain. "I am somebody. I am an Olympic champion. I am an American, and I belong anywhere I choose to be." The 7 men didn't know what to do. They were used to fear, used to compliance, used to black people backing down, looking away, leaving quietly. But Cassius didn't move. He stood there, shoulders back, chin up, gold medal gleaming. The restaurant owner, a white man who had been watching from behind the counter, made a decision. He approached the 7 men and said quietly, "Gentlemen, I think it's time for you to leave." The large man turned to the owner. "What? We're the ones who I said it's time to leave. Now?" The 7 men looked at each other, looked at Cassius, looked at the other diners who were now watching them with different eyes. Not support, but judgment. Slowly, reluctantly, they left. The owner turned to Cassius and said, "I'm sorry about that, but I still can't serve you here. It's policy." Cassius stared at him. Policy. Store policy. Nothing personal. And just like that, the moment collapsed. Cassius had stood his ground. The racist men had left, but he still couldn't eat. Cassius walked out of that restaurant with his gold medal still around his neck. But something inside him had broken. He walked to the 2nd Street Bridge, a place where he used to play as a child. He stood at the edge and looked down at the Ohio River flowing beneath him. He took the gold medal from around his neck. He held it in his hand, this symbol of American excellence, this proof of his worth, and according to the story he would later tell, he threw it into the river. Whether this actually happened is debated by historians. Some say it's a myth, some say it's metaphor, but the truth doesn't matter as much as what the story represents. That night, Cassius Clay decided that America's approval wasn't worth seeking, that excellence in America's eyes didn't equal respect, that he needed to define his own worth, not wait for white America to grant it. They couldn't accept me with a gold medal, he later said. So I decided I didn't need their acceptance. I needed my OWN acceptance. In the months that followed, Cassius Clay began his professional boxing career. But he also began a deeper journey, a journey into identity, consciousness, and purpose. He started reading books about black history that weren't taught in school, books about Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam, books about Marcus Garvey and the Pride movement. He met Malcolm X. In 1962, their conversation changed everything. Malcolm asked him, "Why do you have a white man's name?" "What do you mean?" Cassius asked. "Cassius Clay. That's the name of a slave master. Your ancestors were forced to take that name. It's not your name. It's his name." This idea exploded in Cassius's mind. His entire life he had been trying to prove his worth using the metrics of white America, trying to be good enough for THEIR approval, trying to belong in THEIR restaurants. But what if the game itself was rigged? What if the real power was in rejecting their game entirely and creating his own? In 1964, after defeating Sonny Liston and becoming the heavyweight champion of the world, Cassius Clay made an announcement that shocked America. He had converted to Islam. He was rejecting his slave name. From now on, he would be known as Muhammad Ali. White America was furious. How dare he reject the name they gave him? How dare he reject Christianity? How dare he align himself with Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam? Sports writers refused to call him Muhammad Ali. They kept calling him Cassius Clay, insisting it was his real name. But Ali corrected them every time. Cassius Clay is a slave name. I am Muhammad Ali, a free man. This wasn't just about religion. This was about the philosophy that started that night at the restaurant. The philosophy of I am somebody taken to its ultimate conclusion. I don't need your validation. I don't need your approval. I don't need to eat at your restaurant or hang your flag on my wall. I will define myself. I will name myself. I will be myself. But the real test came in 1966. When the U.S. government drafted Ali for the Vietnam War, Ali refused. "I ain't got no quarrel with them, Viet Cong," he famously said. "No Viet Cong ever called me nigger." The government was outraged. Here was the heavyweight champion, refusing to fight for his country. They stripped his title. They banned him from boxing. They threatened him with prison. White America, which had celebrated him as an Olympic hero, now called him a traitor, a coward, a disgrace. But Ali didn't back down. At a press conference, a reporter asked, "Don't you feel you owe something to America? America gave you the opportunity to become champion." Ali's response was devastating. "America didn't give me nothing. I took what was mine. I won that gold medal. I won that championship. Nobody gave me anything. And now you want me to go fight for a country that won't even let me eat at a lunch counter?" He paused, then added, "You want me to go fight for freedom in Vietnam, but I don't have freedom in Louisville." The reporter had no answer. Ali's refusal cost him everything. His title, his license, his prime years as a fighter, ages 25 to 28. When boxers are at their absolute peak, they took his passport so he couldn't fight internationally. They convicted him of draft evasion. He faced 5 years in prison. Most people thought he would break, that he would apologize, that he would finally back down. But the 3 words he spoke at 18 years old, "I am somebody," had grown into an unshakable philosophy. He wasn't fighting for approval anymore. He was fighting for principle. "I'd rather go to jail for 3 years than go to war for 3 days, he said. "I will not compromise my beliefs for comfort." For 3.5 years, Muhammad Ali couldn't fight. He was banned from the sport he loved. But during those years, he fought a different battle, speaking at colleges, protesting injustice, inspiring a generation. Young black Americans saw Ali and realized, you don't have to accept what they tell you. You don't have to be who they want you to be. You can be who you choose to be. In 1970, the courts finally allowed Ali to fight again. In 1971, the Supreme Court overturned his conviction. He had been right all along, but the years he lost couldn't be returned. The prime of his career, stolen. His speed, slightly diminished. His body, older than it should have been. Yet Ali came back and did the impossible. He fought Joe Frazier in the fight of the century. He defeated George Foreman in the Rumble in the Jungle. He survived the Thrilla in Manila. He proved that principle doesn't mean weakness, that standing for something actually makes you stronger. Ali's influence went far beyond boxing. Athletes across all sports began speaking out against injustice. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jim Brown, Bill Russell, they all cited Ali as the example that made them brave. When Tommy Smith and John Carlos raised their fists at the 1968 Olympics, they were following Ali's lead. When Colin Kaepernick kneeled during the national anthem in 2016, he was channeling the same spirit. The 3 words, "I am somebody," became a mantra for oppressed people everywhere, not just black Americans, but anyone told they didn't belong. They weren't good enough. They should know their place. Ali showed them, you don't need permission to be great. You don't need validation to be valuable. You are somebody, simply because you exist. Decades later, in 1996, Muhammad Ali stood at the Atlanta Olympics. His hands shook with Parkinson's disease. His movements were slow. His speech was slurred. But when he lit the Olympic flame in front of the world, something profound happened. The same country that had stripped his title, banned him from boxing, called him a traitor, that same country now celebrated him as a hero. White Americans who had hated him in the 1960s now loved him. Politicians who had condemned him now praised him. The narrative had changed, but Ali hadn't changed. He had always been the same person. He had always stood for the same principles. America finally caught up to where he had been all along. In an interview years later, a reporter asked Ali, "Do you regret throwing away your Olympic gold medal?" Ali smiled that same confident smile from his youth and said, "I don't regret it, because I learned something that night. I learned that a medal doesn't make you somebody, you make you somebody. And once you know that, really know it, deep in your soul, nobody can take it away from you." So what were those 3 words really about? I am somebody wasn't just a response to 7 racist men in a restaurant. It was a declaration of human dignity, a rejection of every system designed to make him feel small. It meant, I don't need your restaurant to prove my worth. I don't need your approval to know my value. I don't need your permission to be great. I don't need your country's flag to feel proud. I don't need your name to know who I am. Ali understood something profound. The real battle isn't against opponents in the ring. The real battle is against the voices external and internal that tell you you're not enough. Every time Ali said, "I am the greatest," he wasn't bragging. He was affirming. He was fighting against a lifetime of being told he was less than. He was declaring his humanity in a world that tried to deny it. That night in Louisville, when 18-year-old Cassius Clay walked into a restaurant with his Olympic gold medal and was told, "You don't belong here," he had a choice. He could have left quietly. He could have accepted it. He could have said, "This is just how things are." Instead, he said 3 words that changed his life and inspired millions. I am somebody. Those words led him to reject his slave name, to refuse an unjust war, to sacrifice his career for his principles, to become Muhammad Ali, not the name white America gave him, but the name he chose, and in choosing his own name, his own identity, his own path, he showed the world what true freedom looks like. Today, when someone faces discrimination, when someone is told they don't belong, when someone is denied their humanity, they can remember Muhammad Ali standing in that restaurant, looking at 7 men who wanted him to feel small, and saying with absolute certainty, "I am somebody." Not because of a medal, not because of a championship, not because of anyone's approval, simply because it's true. You are somebody. He was somebody. We are all somebody. And once you truly believe that, once you know it in your bones, nobody can make you feel like you don't belong, because wherever you stand, you belong, just like Ali.